Hey guys, what's up? It's Darkmech here, and today I wanted to do a video about Mythic Plus Dungeons. So I wanted to give my thoughts on them, how I'm finding them, how I think they've gone in regards to replacing challenge modes. I wanted to go over the Keystones, Affixes, the way loot works, the chests, the timers, and everything I can pretty much think of just to give you an overview, in case you haven't ventured into Mythic Pluses yet, or if you don't understand how they work. So starting off, I think Blizzard have done an absolutely fantastic job with Mythic Pluses. I am really fucking enjoying them. I was really concerned at the start in regards to how these would go replacing challenge modes, and I'm obviously interested to know what you guys think about that. Mythic Pluses, they're still graded like challenge modes were, so a 3+ Keystone upgrade or a 3 chest run is a gold timer. A 2+ Keystone upgrade or a 2 chest run is a silver time, and finishing in the allotted time is a bronze run. So they're still similar in that feel to what challenge modes were. However, the timer is certainly a lot more lenient than a gold challenge mode timer was. Certainly at the low level Keystone anyway, and the timers always stay the same for that dungeon, but obviously as the Keystone increases and the affixes come into it, it gets harder and harder. But at a low level, it does certainly feel more lenient than the challenge mode one, at least in my opinion anyway. The obvious differences are in challenge mode you got scaled down to that static item level, so that made min-maxing extremely important, same as your group composition and your strategy for your pulls. Mythic Pluses don't function in that way in regards to your gears not scaled down, so if you were struggling at lower fixes and keystone levels, the more gear you get, the easier that is going to become. Now, whether or not that opens a door for Mythic Raiders have a far superior advantage to everyone else, we won't know yet. And it certainly will appear that way, and it will be that way at the start. Whether tier gear is going to be disabled in regards to the set bonuses or not, I do not know yet. I would certainly think so. I know runes, if you activate the new Legion runes, the 325 stat ones, as soon as you start the timer, they're taken off you. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But because of the no scaling, it's pretty much who has the most gear is going to have the biggest advantage. Challenge mode's very much based around speed and pull strategy, as I said, and Mythic Pluses are similar, but the variation in Mythic Pluses comes from what affixes you get on your Keystones, and they alter the way in which you tackle that dungeon, which is really cool. It's fresh and it's new. Challenge modes for normal people, once you had your strat down for your gold timer, that is how you executed the dungeon each and every time. Unless your world first material and realm bests and things like that, where you were constantly trying to upgrade and evolve your dungeon strategy to beat that time. But for normal people, once you had your strategy, that's what you stuck with. And it will still be the similar way in Mythic Pluses, but you will have to change the way you tackle mobs depending on what affix you get, which makes it interesting and it's really cool. So talking about the affixes quickly, to give you a quick rundown. So basically an affix is an additional mechanic that you are going to have to deal with throughout that dungeon. They start at Keystone 4+. And I'm going to give you a rundown of the 8 basic affixes now. So there's Bolstering, where any non-boss enemy dies. Its Death Cry empowers nearby allies, increasing their maximum health and damage by 20%. Necrotic, every enemy melee attacks apply a stacking debuff that deals damage and reduces healing absorbs received. Overflowing causes all overhealing done by healer-specific players to trigger a heal absorb on the target proportional to the amount of overhealing done. Raging, non-boss enemies enrage at 30% health remaining, dealing 100% increased damage until they're defeated. Sanguinine, shortly after death, non-boss enemies will leave a pool of blood on the ground, which heals enemies and damages players for a % of their maximum HP. Skittish, enemies pay far less attention to the threat generated by tanks. Teaming, additional non-boss enemies are present throughout the dungeon. Kill count requirement is increased. And Volcanic, while in combat, enemies periodically cast gouts of flame to erupt beneath the feet of distant players. So they're the 8 basic affixes that you are going to encounter from Mythic Keystone 4+ and onwards. So you'll have at Mythic Keystone 4+, you'll have one affix to deal with. So the Mythic 4+ affixes that you'll see are Bolstering, Raging, Sanguinine, and Teaming. So they're the affixes you're going to come across in Mythic 4. Once you hit Keystone 7+, you're going to be dealing with 2 affixes. You're going to get Decay, Necrotic, Skittish, and Volcanic in this slot for your affixes. Keystone level 10, and this is where loot caps out as well, but I'll talk about that when I get there. You're dealing with 3 affixes. So there's 2 affixes that are specific to 10 plus, and you'll get one of them. They're Fortified, which increases the health and damage of non-boss enemies, and there's Tyrannical, which increases the health and damage of boss enemies. You'll get one of them paired with one of the level 4 and level 7 affixes, and that is how 10 plus will work. So 3 affixes, and that's sort of the highest level where things cap out. And obviously you can keep going up in mythic difficulty after that. There's really no cap on these pluses. So what I've noticed about mythic pluses is that they seem to be a lot more accessible, and I'm curious to know why people think that is. But for me, I've noticed a hell of a lot more groups going for mythic pluses than I ever did for challenge modes. And challenge modes, gold wasn't exactly super hard to get, provided you had a good group and people knew the strats. But in Mythic Pluses, it just seems a lot more open to the pug environment. People seem to be completing them a lot easier, especially from that 2 plus to 5 plus range. So I'm interested to know your thoughts on that, guys. So Keystones and getting started. So how do you access a Mythic Plus dungeon? Well, when you complete a Mythic dungeon, you get a Keystone at the end of your run, and that Keystone will be a 2 plus Mythic run, and it will point you to a random dungeon in Legion. You'll go to that dungeon with your group. Upon zoning in, once everyone's ready, you'll put your Keystone into the starter stone thingy. I don't know what the fuck it's called. And a window will pop up showing you what affixes or what damage increase the bosses are going to have and health and things like that. You'll hit start, a 10-second countdown will come up, and away you'll go. Now, big difference in Mythic Pluses from challenge modes is that you cannot reset a Mythic Plus. Once you start, you are going. So it is really important that you are good to go from the start. If somebody is outside when you start your Keystone, much like challenge modes, they cannot zone in, and we found that out a horrible way too by being stupid. So then you are 4-manning your dungeon. If someone leaves mid-Mythic Plus run, they have fucked you too, as you cannot replace them. So don't be a dick to people. So what happens if you start your run and you fail to meet the timer? Then your Keystone gets depleted. Now, what does a depleted Keystone mean? It's not the end of the world. Pretty much, if you start a run with an active Keystone and you fail to finish it in the allotted time, you will still get loot. Your Keystone will deplete, but you will still get loot. The way to replenish or reactivate your Keystone is that you have to do that dungeon again, starting it with the depleted Keystone. You will get no loot, and it will say it when you pop up, when you put the Keystone in, that it's going to reward no loot. But upon finishing in the allotted time with that depleted Keystone, your Keystone will reactivate again. So that is how the depleting and reactivating works. When you complete a Mythic Plus dungeon in the time limit, you will get an upgrade. So as I mentioned before, a 3 plus upgrade is going to give you 3 chests, and it's going to upgrade your Keystones level by 3. So you'll go from 4 to 7, for example. You can get 2 plus, which is a 2 chest, and just finishing in the allotted time will give you just a 1 plus upgrade. One thing to note is there is a fantastic add-on that I would point everyone to get called Gotta Go Fast. And Gotta Go Fast shows you the 3 plus and the 2 plus times on it, so you can know exactly what you're shooting for in each dungeon. It's very much like that challenge mode weak aura. It will track your enemy forces in regards to how close you are to 100% and things like that. So a great add-on to get, guys. Gotta Go Fast. Get on board that one. After every reset on Tuesday night for me, so whenever your reset is, your challenge mode, your Mythic Plus Keystone will be removed from your bags. In your class hall, there is, what is it called? Grand Challenges Bounty. You can go and loot that after every reset. You will get a guaranteed piece of gear from that chest, and you will also get a new Mythic Keystone, again pointing you to a random dungeon. The loot that you get, the piece of loot, is basically scaled off the best performance that you had in Mythic Pluses that week. So the higher and better you go, hopefully the way it should work is the better item you should get. But there's obviously Titan Forging and War Forging and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. Should be noted too, guys, and I should have mentioned, when you upgrade your Keystone in that dungeon, when you finish a dungeon, you get an upgraded Keystone. It is not necessarily going to be for the same dungeon. It's always going to pretty much point you to a random dungeon. It's the same way Affixes work. They're always going to be random each week. So that's pretty much it for the sort of the keystone side of things. Loot wise, it caps out. Mythic 10 plus is where the loot caps out in terms of item level. It was originally said that loot was going to cap at 880, but I got an 885 ring the other night, so I'm assuming maybe 885 or possibly even 890 might be the cap, but 885 is the highest I've seen at the moment. The baseline level is 840 from Mythic 2, so same as Mythics pretty much, but the higher you get, the better loot you should be getting, or you will be getting. Originally, Blizzard had organised Mythic Plus Dungeons to be rewarding 5 pieces of loot for the group, not just for you, to be spread amongst the whole group from the chest at the end. This has now been nerfed to 2 bits of loot, and that's fair enough because 5 was pretty fucking ridiculous. You will end up gaining a shitload of artifact power by these. And obviously, you really want to try and push for those 3+, 2+ upgrades because there's a 3 chest or a 2 chest, which just increases your chance at loot. So out of a 3 chest run, you get about 5 pieces of loot, which obviously goes towards gearing your group or yourself a hell of a lot quicker. And I mentioned gotta go fast, so get on to gotta go fast, guys. Another thing to note with Mythic Pluses is that you cannot complete quests in them. So we tried that in Darkheart Thicket and it does not work. So same as challenge modes, the bosses drop nothing. You cannot complete quests in Mythic Plus Dungeons. So that is it, guys. I think I've covered off everything that I wanted to cover off with Mythic Pluses. As I said, I'm really enjoying them, but I want to know, are you guys enjoying them? Are they accessible? Are you able to get into groups for them? Or is it much the same as challenge modes where no one wants to take you if you're this class or that class? Again, I haven't seen that much class restriction based around these. They seem really accessible, and that's why I think Blizzard have done such a great job with them. But I want to know what you guys think about them. So thank you very much for checking out the video. As always, guys, if you've got any questions, please do hit me up. Otherwise, like, comment, hit that sub button, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching again, guys. See ya.